Is it true that for religious reasons, Jehovah's Witnesses may not become part of the YMCA, the Young Men's Christian Association?
Yes, this is so. We have long recognized that the YMCA, though not being a church as such, is definitely aligned with the religious organizations of Christendom in efforts to promote interfaith. In joining the YMCA as a member, a person accepts or endorses the general objectives and principles of the organization. Membership means that one has become an integral part of this organization founded with definite religious objectives, including the promotion of interfaith. Hence, for one of Jehovah's Witnesses to become a member of such a so-called Christian association would amount to apostasy.
What if they only wanted to join for the health benefits, the swimming, and the basketball, and the activities? Would it really be that bad? Or what if one just simply wanted to get a job there, perhaps janitorial work at one of the YMCA's? Would a Jehovah's Witness be allowed to do that?
Even a janitor or a receptionist at a blood bank or a plant making only weapons of war is directly linked with work contrary to God's word.
Why does the WatchTower take such a firm stance in what they allow their congregation to do and not do?
Jehovah's Witnesses maintain neutrality with regard to the political and military affairs of the nations, since true dedicated Christians are no part of the world. If a member of the congregation unrepentantly pursues a course in violation of his Christian neutrality, he thereby disassociates himself from the neutral Christian congregation.
Would it be justifiable if a person in a third world nation was able to avoid being raped and beaten and tortured and killed simply by buying a 25-cent political ID card? Would that be okay?
As I stated, since true dedicated Christians are no part of the world, if a member of the congregation unrepentantly pursues a course in violation of his Christian neutrality, he thereby disassociates himself from the neutral Christian congregation.
What's the WatchTower's view about the United Nations?
The United Nations is actually a world confederacy against Jehovah God and his dedicated witnesses on earth.
Interestingly enough, the June 1st, 1991 WatchTower tells us, speaking of Christendom, at paragraph 10, however, she, Christendom, has not done so. Instead, in her quest for peace and security, she insinuates herself into the favor of the political leaders of the nations. This despite the Bible's warnings that friendship with the world is enmity with God. Moreover, in 1919, she strongly advocated that the League of Nations as man's best hope for peace. Since 1945, she has put her hope in the United Nations. How extensive is her involvement with this organization? A recent book, which I will mention in a second, gives an idea when it states no less than 24 Catholic organizations are represented at the UN. Now let me call your attention to the red line. A recent book gives an idea when it states no less than 24 Catholic organizations are represented at the UN. That recent book they're talking about, the no less than 24 Catholic organizations, that statement comes from this book, New Genesis Shaping a Global Spirituality by Robert Muller. In it, he has two sentences that directly relate to that quote. One was in the quote in the WatchTower book, or WatchTower article. The other sentence was not. And here they are together, in the white. Quote, all major world religions are accredited to the United Nations as NGOs, non-governmental organizations. It's the one that wasn't in the WatchTower article. The next sentence was, for example, no less than 24 Catholic organizations are represented at the UN. See how they pick and choose what they want you to see and what they don't want you to see? Well, look at this. Would you believe then that the WatchTower leadership was condemning other churches for getting their NGO accreditation less than 12 months prior to them getting their own? Well, pardon my French here as I call a spade, but the fact is that this would be pretty condemning had I not had evidence that the WatchTower Society did indeed hop into the sack with the whore of Babylon and keep it secret from its congregation. the question comes up, why? First, let me provide the evidence that they did indeed have associations and affiliations with the United Nations, and then we'll get into the why. Here's a letter from the WatchTower leadership to The Guardian, which broke the story. And in it, you can go ahead and stop this and read it for yourself, but they're basically saying to The Guardian, look, Stephen Bates wrote an article about us, and he's got it all wrong. We're being misrepresented. No, this didn't happen. And they said, well, we didn't know that the policies changed over at the UN. We didn't know this, and after we found out that the situation changed and the policies changed, well, we pulled our membership and withdrew our ID card and all that kind of thing. So, which is nothing more than just a big lie, as you will see. Now, just as a quick sidetrack point of interest, go watch my videos, Jehovah's Witnesses, Malawi, and Mexico, and you will see how the leadership at the WatchTower told those congregations in Malawi and Mexico, do not get a political card, do not have any association with the government, and if you have to, suffer persecution, suffer dismemberment, repeated rapes, brutality that's unfathomable, and death. But they told them, do not have anything to do with the world and suffer persecution. Does that hold true for the leadership? Absolutely not. And you folks wonder why I hate the WatchTower leadership? I love you people, but these people, they need to go. This is what a false prophet does. Now, the WatchTower was claiming that they had to have NGO status to obtain the library card to do their research. Well, this letter from the United Nations states just the opposite. It says the issuance of a library pass is independent of NGO status or any other status. There has been no change in the library pass policy in general. They made it up. It's all a lie. Now here's the attempt at damage control letter from the WatchTower headquarters to the congregations, to the elders. And in it they state, well, look, these opposers have talked about how we had secret links with the United Nations. Well, if you didn't have secret links, why didn't the congregation know about it? So go ahead and pause this, read this, and you'll see how all they're saying is, look, there's nothing secret, there's nothing going on, don't pay any attention to that man behind the curtain. We were just trying to get a library card, that's all. You see, the WatchTower gets themselves out of jams like this by counting on their loyal followers to either be too stupid to put a couple of words together that form sentences they can read and understand, or the fear factor that they are truly Jehovah's organization and they can be totally trusted. That's called spiritual abuse, my friends. Now, call me Overkill Bill, but yet here's another letter from the United Nations. This is a reply in regards to the claims that the WatchTower made that their policies changed and that they weren't associated with them and all this kind of thing. And you'll see here, it states that the WatchTower Bible and Tract Society of New York, a NGO, non-governmental organization, has been associated with the DPI, that's the Department of Public Information, since 1992. And they requested to terminate its association in 2001. That's when the whistle got blown. That's when the cover got blown, and they got nailed. And they said, we didn't know. They pulled the old Ralph Cramden bit, and they got caught in the ringer. So they were associated since all the way back from 1992 and said nothing to anybody about it. Now, if you're a Jehovah's Witness, how would they address this situation if you were involved in it? Well, they tell you, since true dedicated Christians are no part of the world, if a member of the congregation unrepentantly, I mean repeatedly, pursues a course in violation of his Christian neutrality, he thereby disassociates himself from the neutral Christian congregation. That's how they would handle it with you on a personal level. So as you can see, the facts bear out that the leadership can play footsie with the floozy, but as far as anybody else, no way. Under penalty of death, dismemberment, rape, torture, doesn't matter. You are not to be part of the world. Now, if you're part of our leadership, well, maybe we can work something out here, but no, that is not the case for the Spirit-anointed 144,000, the great crowd, which is class number 2, and then you have the elite leadership. You've got a 3-class system, my friends. What do they tell all the kids in school? Don't do the Pledge of Allegiance. Don't take any pledge or oath of allegiance. No. But look at this, United States Oath of Allegiance. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, so help me God. Would the WatchTower leadership let you take an oath like that when they won't let you say the Pledge of Allegiance? Certainly not. But guess who did? Joseph Rutherford and Nathan Knorr. Both had to take this oath and sign it to get a passport. Tell me that's not being hypocritical with double standards. So, what is the reason that they were shacking up at the Whore of Babylon? Quite simply, they needed to get things done in foreign countries, and such as in Bulgaria. All right? They could not and were not being recognized as a state-sanctioned religion in Bulgaria back in the day, not all that long ago, a handful of years ago. So why were they refused state sanctioning? Simply because of their stance on the blood issue. Bulgaria said, no, you're a cult group, you have a strange stance on this not taking blood transfusions, we will not allow you as a state-sanctioned religion. What did they do? The WatchTower gave them paperwork. They said, okay, here's what we'll do. We will allow the Bulgarian congregation to take blood transfusions, if they will, without reprimand, without threat of dissociation. And the Bulgarian government took it in writing and said, okay, fine. They gave them state sanctioning. That's why they have to rub elbows with the powers that be to get things done in these foreign countries. But they're not going to tell you that because they sit, quite simply, they are not sticking by the standards they're enforcing on everyone else. They don't have to. Why? Because they're the faithful and discreet slave. And furthermore, as you're familiar with their policy on what they call and refer to as theocratic warfare, which is keeping the truth from those that don't deserve to hear it, my friends, don't think that they only use this against Christendom. They're using it against you more than anybody else.